Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Good Things Fashion Tutorial. Today we are going to learn how to make a school uniform knicker. A school uniform knicker. And in order to achieve that, we need some items such as a fabric. And here I have the regular knicker fabric, khaki knicker fabric, folded into two. I have my tape measure, I have my scissors, I have my ruler, and of course my chalk. And we also need some measurements. In order to make a school uniform knicker, we need our waist measurements, we need the hips measurements, we need our lap measurements, our lap width measurements, we need the length of the knicker, and we also need the crotch depth. Now, after getting all these measurements, we start to input our measurement, having folded the fabric into two like this. You fold your fabric into two in this manner. The first thing we do is draw a starting line, a straight line, to make sure we are working on a uniform surface. Draw a starting line. From that starting line, the next measurement we will make is to get our crotch depth. We are going to input our crotch depth, and in order to get the crotch depth, the formula is hip divided by 4 plus 1. Our hip divided by 4 plus 1. The hip measurement I have here is 30 inches. I have 30 inches divided by 4, that is 7.5, plus 1, that's 8.5. I will input that here, but take into consideration that I'm going to add a band, a waistband to the trouser. So instead of using 8.5, I'm going to input the 7.5, giving allowance for the waistband that will still come on this side. So I will input the 7.5. I will do it on two sides in order to achieve a perfect straight line. And I will rule out the line. I'll rule out my line like this. The next measurement we input is our knicker length. Our knicker length. And here, for my knicker length, I have 17 inches. We measure it out. 17 inches. Plus 2 inches allowance for the hemming. 2 inches for the hemming. I will also mark it on two sides in order to make the line straight and perfect. 17 inches plus 2 inches. I'll rule out my line. Now, having made all the horizontal line, the next thing is to begin to input our vertical measurement. And the first one we are going to do here is to input our waist measurement. But because this knicker is a knicker that is going to have a elastic at the back, half of the waist is going to be elastic at the back, so we cannot use our waist measurement directly. We need to use the hip measurement. We use the hip measurement. After putting the elastic, we are going to achieve the waist. My waist is 25, but we have to use the hip measurement, and the hip measurement I have here is 30 inches divided by 4. You divide it by 4, that's 7.5, plus 1 inch sewing allowance. I will add 1 inch sewing allowance. I will come down to the crotch depth here and also mark the 7.5 plus 1 inch sewing allowance, making 8.5. I will mark it on the same, on the crotch line. And I'll rule my line. and rule the vertical line. Join the line together. On the same crotch line, this line, I have to input my lap measurement, the measurement round the lap, and here I have 20 inches, and normally we divide the lap by 2. We don't divide it by 4 like other measurement. We divide it by 2, and 20 inches divided by 2 is 10. I will put it here, 10 inches. I've had 1 inch sewing allowance, and I will draw my curve. Note that the curve for the crotch is always close to the lines. It doesn't come out like this, like you will do for the, if you are measuring for your sleeve. For the crotch, it has to come inside and be close, very close to the line of the waist like this. After getting that line, I will now go down to the hem of the trouser, of the knicker, and measure out the, I'm going to use the lap measurement again and measure it out on the hem, which is 10 inches. Plus 1 inch sewing allowance. I'm going to rule my line. Note that some people like to come in here by 0.5 inches in order to have a pencil effect, while some people like to go out by 5.5 inches to have a skirt like effect. But for this one, I'm just going to use the lap width straight like that to get the measurement. Now we go back to the waist and measure out our pocket size. To get our pocket, we measure in this place 2 inches, and on this side we measure 6. I like to use 6 inches. Some people use 5 inches, but I like to use 6 inches. We also go down here at the front of the knicker by 0.5 to have a slant line, because our waist is not straight. We draw a slant line like this. Our knicker is ready to be, so you need to cut it out. The front of the knicker. Note that this is the front of the knicker. We are still going to cut out the back. Remember to notch the area where you have your pocket a little. I will now I'll cut it into 2. Now we are ready to cut the back of the knicker. This is the front of the knicker that I placed on over this folded fabric at the back, in order for us to be able to use it to cut the back of the knicker. In order to cut the back of the knicker, after placing the front on top of it, we have to extend all this measurement here. I like to extend this side by 1.5 inches. You draw it, measure it out 1.5, and this side, depending on the person, if it's a woman, a big person with big bum bum, you adjust the measurement. But these are school children, so I use 1.5 on this side. I use 2 inches on this side. Measure it and mark it like that, and draw it out the straight line. Draw out the straight line, and here too, draw out your line. Now we are going to extend this crotch line to meet the line for the back of the knicker. We extend it out like this. Now we are going to draw our slants, our curve, in the same manner. We draw it, and at the top of the knicker here, we need to extend the line by 1 inches up for the back of the knicker. We have to extend it by 1 inches, and using this our ruler, we can get the straight line for this one ends here. For the front of the knicker is like this. Now from there we measure out 1 inches here. From that 1 inches, we draw a slant to the end of the back of the knicker like this, because we need to raise the knicker at the back so that it can, our bum bum, when it push it up, it can still size us. So then we finish up this area by extending out our lines. You can also curve it a little. Then we cut out at the back of our knicker. We need to cut it out now. It's ready. After cutting the body of the knicker, the next item I want to cut now is the pocket for the knicker. And I have here my fabric on fold using 5.5 inches on this side, 5.5, and on this side, on the lengthwise, I'll use 10 inches. I'll use 10 inches. 10 inches. I'll measure the 5.5 here to make sure it is straight. I'll make my line and I'll cut it out. I'll use this one to make the second one. The next item I want to cut now is the waistband. The waistband, and I have here my fabric. In order to make the waistband, I normally use measuring 5 inches by the length. 5 inches by the length of the waist. So I'm going to measure out the 5 inches on this fabric. If you are not sure of the edge of your fabric, if it's straight, you can draw a straight line. You can draw a straight line like this in order to work with to make sure your 5 inches is accurate all through. You can draw a straight line. Now from that straight line, I measure 5 inches. 5 inches. 5 inches. I will draw my line. And I'll cut it out. Now I use 5 inches because when I use 5 inches and I fold it into two like this, and we have 2.5 inches on each side, and half inches will be for sewing allowance to sew it inside, and we have 2 inches remaining for the hemming. Now I'm going to measure out my length. Like I said before, my hips, we use the hips for the waistline, and for the hips I have 30 inches. I will cut out the front length here, which will be 15 inches, but I'll give allowance for so I will give sewing, I will put sewing. I will measure out the 15 inches. 30 inches divided by 2, that's 15. I'll measure it out here, and I'll add sewing allowance of 2 inches to make it 17 on the two sides. I will have 1 inches sewing allowance. And I will cut it out. I'll use it to cut the second one for the back. Now I have my 2 waistband, one for the front and the second one for the back. The one at the back, I will input elastic into it, while the one at the front is going to be plain like that. And that is the end of our school uniform knicker cutting tutorial. Thank you very much for viewing and watching this channel. Please like the video, share the video, subscribe to this channel for more well explained videos such as this. Thank you and God bless you. I'm going to make another video when I'm sewing it, when I'm joining them together. I will make another video that will explain thoroughly to you how you are going to join together all these pieces. I will explain to you how you will join the pockets, the waistband, and the knicker pieces together. Please watch out for that video. Thank you. Please subscribe to this channel.